Earlier this week, Daniel Jeremiah released his 1.0 edition of his 2024 NFL Draft Prospect Rankings. Always really fun to see the first iteration of these. It will certainly change over the course of the next couple of months, and probably even sooner rather than later with the Senior Bowl and East-West Shrine games wrapping up. So this is going to be really fun to look at and see how things change. Of course, there's going to be movement inside the top 50 with players jumping in and out, but also even as high as the top 10. Players are going to move up and down. I have already seen this. I'm going to give you the cliff notes in general here. But as you should probably expect up to this point, Caleb Williams is number one. We know about Caleb Williams at this point. He is an incredibly talented thrower of the football, just player of football in general. Great with his legs. His main issue is being on schedule. So what that means is playing within the structure of the offense, getting the ball on time to his receivers instead of holding on to it and maybe even leaving clean pockets for the sake of improvisation. I said improvisation weird there, but Caleb Williams is a tremendous prospect and has the highest upside of probably anybody in this draft. That's why he's number one. Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in at number two. Apparently has an ideal size, speed, and production type of profile, and he is a super big dude with great movement ability, 6'4", over 200 pounds. And is a really, really good route runner, not only for that size, but just in general. He says overall Harrison is a prototypical number one receiver and should enjoy immediate NFL success. You don't see that from a lot of different players, and not everybody even in the top 10 you can say is going to be a Pro Bowl type player. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is certainly an exceptional prospect and is expected to be one of the best receivers in the NFL at some point in his career. At number three, not too far behind, is Washington's Rome Odunze. Big, athletic, exceptional hands. Yeah, really solid route runner, really good speed down the field. And we already knew that Daniel Jeremiah was going to love Rome Odunze based on some of his comments leading up to the release of his 1.0 rankings and even that first mock draft that came out. Rome Odunze has a ton to like, should be a really good player in the NFL, and is just really capable of doing it all. But I love him especially working down the field. And Daniel Jeremiah throws out the Larry Fitzgerald out of Pitt comp, so that's a fun one. Now, I think Odunze actually, well, I guess Larry Fitzgerald coming out of college was a freak athlete. Obviously, we kind of think about Larry Fitzgerald now as having, below average speed for a top-end receiver, but Odunze, I think, has above average speed for a top-end receiver. But, of course, don't hate the comparison play style-wise. I think Odunze just gets down the field a little bit better, but when you're drawing a comparison to Larry Fitzgerald, one of the game's best receivers of all time, pretty good. Pretty good. So, sky is the limit for Rome Odunze. And you can say the same of a player at a different position. Number four, Drake May from UNC. We're getting to the point of draft fatigue, draft prospect fatigue, and a lot of people are down on Drake May because they don't know what they're talking about, and they really like the crap on what is a tremendous prospect. And the way I kind of see Drake May is like a more athletic Justin Herbert play style wise, and I wasn't a major fan of Herbert coming out of college because there were some inconsistencies, especially with the touch over the middle of the field. And Drake May is not a perfect prospect, has been a little bit turnover prone in 2023. However, you can attribute that to a lot of different things, like the offensive line being not so great, and the receivers that he was so accustomed to leaving for the pros. Obviously, getting Tez Walker midway through the season was a big boost, but Drake May is an incredible prospect. Everyone, oh, there's no good UNC quarter. I'm so sick of hearing that. It's such a ridiculous thing to say, oh, Drake May and Mitch Trubisky went to the same school, therefore Drake May is going to be a bust. It's such an idiot take. And that doesn't mean Drake May is going to be a superstar. That's not what I'm saying. He could certainly be a bust, as we like to say. Quarterbacks are incredibly tough to project, and it's an incredibly tough position to play. How many actual good starting quarterbacks are there in the league? 15, maybe, right? So, it's a really tough thing to meet your potential, but Drake May has a ton of it, and yeah, will probably be gone within the first 2 or 3 picks at the worst, I would say. At number 5, you have Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU. It's good to see Jaden Daniels so high because this is a player I quite like based off what I saw from 2023. Wasn't really that high on my radar coming into the year, but then when you actually go and watch him, you go, oh, this guy is deadly accurate, and that wasn't something you could say of his play at Arizona State. He is a little bit too erratic at times, just as a player, not necessarily as a passer, but just makes some crazy decisions, takes some crazy bad hits. And of course, DJ mentions this as well. Took some huge hits in the games I studied. I mean, you see him jumping into contact, and I mean, he's a wild player. And of course, with a lean build that can result in some easier injuries, hopefully nothing like that happens. Daniels just has to be a little bit more selective with the hits he takes. You know, reminiscent of Lamar Jackson. That guy hardly ever takes a real shot. And even he's dealt with some injury problems, but none of them really have been taking big hits. But you don't want to see Jaden Daniels go down like the Andrew Luck career path. That guy needed to avoid contact a little bit more than he did. At number 6, Terrion Arnold. This is really cool to see Arnold so far up the board because, you know, Kool-Aid McKinstry was going into the year CB1 at Alabama, CB1 in the draft probably. And then Arnold came on so strong because teams kept throwing at him and he kept just defending the ball. You see a lot of aggression or aggressiveness when he plays the position, tenacity, and a lot of scouts love that of the cornerback position. Arnold certainly is no exception. Really, really good tackler and CB1 in this draft apparently. Pro Bowl caliber cornerback, says DJ of Terrion Arnold. I'm a big Nate Wiggins guy. I recognize that Wiggins is probably a little bit more of a project than an Arnold, and we'll get to Nate Wiggins down the board here. I'll probably spend a little bit less time on some of these guys as we get down through the list, but we'll talk about Nate Wiggins. I am a big fan of him. I said he would be the first cornerback off the board, you know, for the last couple of months. I think it's in play, but Arnold might be a little bit more polished right now, which could lead him up the draft board. So number 6 is an incredible spot for Terrion Arnold. Love to see that. At number 7 is LSU's Malik Neighbors. Love Neighbors as a player. He's going to be my wide receiver too, and he has big-time ability to get down the field and big-time ability to make guys miss after the catch. DJ says that Neighbors is an electric playmaker who reminds him of DJ Moore with the ball in his hands. Yep. Definite top 10 pick, I would say. Maybe even gone within the top 5 or 6. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's incredibly difficult to rank some of these receivers because it's such a talented class. It kind of depends what you want. Neighbors, to me, I can appreciate what he does after the catch, and I know that's usually a translatable skill. Odunze, I don't think is quite so good in that area. I really do like Rome as a player. I just prefer Neighbors personally, but of course, we'll play to DJ's list here. He's certainly way better at this than I am. As we get to number 8, Brock Bowers from Georgia. Undersized tight end with elite speed, strength, and playmaking ability. And yeah, Brock Bowers is such a fun player. Somebody who really did it all at Georgia. And how many tight ends can really break away and eliminate pursuit angles the way Brock Bowers can? It's very, very few. He is such a talented player, and DJ says Bowers reminds him a lot of George Kittle, and I see him having a similar impact in the NFL. So that goes to his awesome ability as a blocker, but also next level athleticism that I think will end up making Brock Bowers a top 10 pick. I think he's worth it because whether it's a receiver or a tight end, these are guys that catch the football. The modern NFL really uses tight ends more than ever, and if you can have someone that can really be a weapon in a mismatch and someone that can be the focal point of your offense, why not take that guy in the top 10? And we see offenses that really utilize tight ends. You know, look at New England for so many of those years, right? They didn't have a number 1 receiver the way they did have a number 1 tight end in Gronk, or number 1 wide receiver compared to the tight end that was the number 1 receiver in that offense. Gronk so productive, obviously, even, you know, some other tight ends getting in the mix there. Number 9, we have Joe Alt from Notre Dame. He is DJ's offensive tackle 1 in this class. He's a former tight end that started at left tackle during all 3 seasons at Notre Dame. Exceptional size and length and movement skills, really, too. He was a former tight end. I'm not sure if DJ notes that in here. But it is kind of a fun fact because a lot of these guys don't necessarily lose that movement ability when they add weight if they're a special type of an athlete like Joe Alt is. Really, really fun. I didn't think he was quite so amazing in 2022, although he was really good. 2023, he really stepped it up a notch for me. And says, overall, Alt isn't a rare athlete, but his combination of size, instincts, and youth, he'll be 21 for his entire rookie season, is easy to bet on. Yeah, I do think he moves pretty well. Not saying he's an exceptional athlete, but I do think the movement skills are pretty solid overall. And yeah, that comes from the former, or playing of the tight end position. And at number 10, we have Dallas Turner from Alabama. Long, athletic, with excellent production and intriguing skill set as a pass rusher. He's really good as a run stopper as well. Maybe needs to develop a little bit more of a pass rush plan. Can be inconsistent with his pure bull rush. But of course, when you get a guy that's big, strong, and athletic, if you can get that guy moving down the runway, a ton of space between him and the tackle, then you're able to really, turn speed to power and, push an offensive tackle into the quarterback's lap. But yeah, Dallas Turner has a ton of experience and is a great athlete that I think is going to end up being a really solid NFL player. Number 11, you have Talisa Fuaga from Oregon State. Now, this is someone that was really impressive in the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl so far. Did not participate today as I record this on the 1st of February, but was really awesome through the first couple of days. Fuaga impressed as a pass protector, and that could even move him up the board for DJ here in the coming days. We'll have to see. But already knew he was a mauling run blocker who was good as a pass blocker. Now he is, seemingly taking that to another level. And Daniel Jeremiah even thinks he could move to the left side or play inside at guard. Fuaga, a ton of potential, and apparently Pro Bowl potential at that. Number 12 is Olu Fashanu. Came into the year as OT1 for me. I think that still might end up being the case. There are some times where he was just dismantled by JT Tuimoloau, but I did think he took strides in the run game as a run blocker in 2023. But yeah, still has all the potential in the world. Probably the best overall size and athlete profile in this draft. Tyler Guyton might be close, but Olu's a little bit bigger, I think, and a little bit more solid as a pass protector on that left side. So Olu, I think I am going to have as OT1 when it is all said and done. We'll have to see, though. Things could change when we go back and really look at it some more. But Fashanu, yeah, incredible player where you're looking for more in the run game. It was better in 2023. Still not incredible, but really, really good athlete. And, yeah, still young, developing. We'll have to see what his future holds. Could be a top 10 pick. And then J.C. Latham at number 13. Yeah, all you can say about this guy is he is massive. Really, really big, really strong. Can be a mauler in the run game as well. Movement skills, not quite so good. But you can see that when he latches on and runs his feet, he can dump defenders. Very good on combo blocks. Overall, Latham doesn't have ideal foot quickness or awareness, but his size and physicality are very tantalizing. At number 14, we have Jared Verse, the edge from Florida State. Powerful hands is my main takeaway watching Jared Verse. Rugged, twitched-up edge rusher with a thick, powerful build. At FSU, he moved around the defensive front, multiple different techniques. But overall, Verse is not only a productive pass rusher, he's a violent tempo setter for the defense. He's a solid run defender as well, and I think for someone that's newer to being an edge defender, he is pretty incredibly far along and showed strides in 2023 of being a more complete edge player, and that's setting the edge. That's being a really solid run defender and not, moving from where he's supposed to be. Like you can see with some, more inexperienced pass rushers. Verse has big time upside, really good athlete with really, really powerful hands. As we see something I'm really happy to see at number 15, I've been a Brian Thomas Jr. truther for a while. He's a big explosive wideout with incredible production, including an FBS best 17 touchdown catches this past season. Lines up outside in the slot, although I think you can say he's going to be an outside receiver at the next level. Although NFL teams move these guys inside and outside all the time, looking for mismatches, but Thomas is a long strider that can really get down the field. And of course, with that size, it's a very large catch radius because of his frame, leaping ability, and ball skills. After the catch, he has some wiggle to make defenders miss and also boasts home run speed. Yeah, he gets down the field in a hurry. Long strider, as I mentioned, he can really just burn you deep. Overall, he says Thomas is a big play machine and has the upside to develop into a number one receiver for his drafting team. I think that's true. Big time playmaking ability down the field, and that plays in the NFL, especially with a combination of solid hands. At number 16, we have Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle from Washington. Could potentially move inside to guard. A lot of teams do project him at guard, apparently. But overall, DJ views him as a starting tackle with positional flexibility to play all 5 offensive line spots if needed. So it's an interesting profile there for Troy Fautanu. You know, the thing we've heard for a while with him is that he's someone that is probably going to move inside to guard, but there is a chance, I guess, that he stays at tackle, and we'll just have to see which team drafts him and what their plan is going to be. Of course, we won't really know for sure until it's announced on draft night, and that's when you see guys get announced at the position that they're probably going to play versus the position they played in college. We see tackles get announced as guards, guards announced as centers sometimes, or centers announced as guards. That one maybe is a little bit less common, but usually you hear tackles announced as guards, or even cornerbacks announced as defensive back, safety. It all really depends, but we don't know for a while. At number 17 is maybe the most athletic tackle in this class. That's Oklahoma's Tyler Guyton, was a transfer from TCU. Yeah, really athletic right tackle. That's why I made the distinction earlier with Olu Fashanu, excuse me. But it says that, yeah, very gifted athlete in pass pro. He explodes out of his stance and has a range to cover up speed rushers. Very fluid and smooth in his redirect versus counter rushers. So a guy like Leatu Latu could have some trouble against Oklahoma's Tyler Guyton. Fun Senior Bowl matchup there. But you can see he can look flimsy up top and get tugged and pulled. And for some of these taller, leaner tackles, you do have a problem with that center of gravity and anchoring at times. But Tyler Guyton has big-time potential, really does his best in space, and he says that he's an exceptional as a puller because of his athleticism and balance on the perimeter. He does a great job of staying off the ground. Overall, Guyton is still a work in progress, but he has elite traits and tools, as does this next tackle, Amarius Mims. He's an enormous right tackle prospect with long arms, but was very limited starting experience, or very limited in his experience at Georgia due to injuries, 8 total starts, being either buried on the depth chart. Amarius Mims really didn't see the field very much, but as TJ mentions, has an impressive skill set. In pass pro, he plays with a firm, wide base and uses his length to control defenders, stays square and patient. Overall, there is risk because of the limited body of work, but Mims is a unique talent. So yeah, struggles in space a little bit, but has big time size and upside. Just, can he stay healthy? Can he develop? A team taking a chance on him is doing exactly that, taking a chance. He is not a sure thing, but has big time upside and potential. At number 19, we have Toledo's Quinyon Mitchell. Big time athlete at cornerback, as I've said the entire process. I'm so happy to see him inside the top 20, by the way. I've also been pushing the Quinyon Mitchell train. Excellent size, speed, and toughness. Verified 4.3 speed going into this season. And as DJ actually mentioned on the broadcast today, we'll see how that evolves with training. Could run even faster than 4.39 like he did in the offseason. But this is someone who is really awesome in off-man coverage. He's able to explode downhill and make plays on the football. And all this is actually being said in here as well. But really good athlete who also dominated day 1 and 2 at the Senior Bowl. He was incredible. And this is someone that I expect to see actually rise in the rankings. People have really been on me, getting annoyed that when I mock, a team like the Eagles or even teams above the Eagles in the draft order, Quinyon Mitchell, why are you not giving us the top corners in the draft like Kool-Aid McKinstry and, a number of these different names that have been in that conversation? But it's because I think Quinyon Mitchell is better than them, and I think he will be drafted ahead of them. Here he is at number 19 in DJ's rankings. Really awesome to see. He is a freak athlete with size and also really good instincts. Super fun player to watch. Overall, DJ says Mitchell is a feisty competitor with outstanding speed and a history of ball production. At number 20, we have the first linebacker. Really have not been that many of these getting hype. And even maybe the best one in the class, Peyton Wilson, for me, has a bunch of injuries that will probably push him down the board. But Edgerrin Cooper enjoyed a breakout season in 2023 for the Aggies. Long, rangy linebacker with excellent speed and coverage ability. DJ says against the pass, he is very smooth in his drops, playing with vision and awareness. This is a modern NFL linebacker with size and athleticism. He's somebody that probably will stick at outside linebacker, in my opinion, but could potentially move inside as well, depending on what team drafts him and what their plan might be for him going forward. He will have some missed flyby tackles when in lateral pursuit. It reminds me of Jonathan Abram, different positions, but different style of, or same style of mistake there with the flyby tackles. That just, Jonathan Abram popped in my head if you guys remember him out of Mississippi State. Of course, the Raiders drafted him. But DJ says, overall, Cooper is an instinctive and explosive prospect who generates a bunch of splash plays. He's ready to start right away, and I believe his best football is still ahead of him. So big-time potential, but already a pretty good player right now. He's somebody that pops on tape. Just the athleticism at linebacker is really tough to ignore. It's the same things that make you fall in love with Devin White at LSU that makes him go so high in the draft. And Edgerrin Cooper, certainly big-time potential. Cool to see him in the top group here, as he is really, really talented in what is not so great of a linebacker class. At number 21, we have Laiatu Latu from UCLA. Been big on Laiatu Latu for a long time now. You guys know I've hyped him up a ton. He is incredibly skilled as a pass rusher. Awesome hands. Has a number of counter moves ready to go if his first move does not work. And DJ says he has ideal size, quickness, and instincts for the position. As a pass rusher, he can win with his quick get off or a variety of hand moves. He has an excellent feel for when offensive tackles overset or underset and adjust accordingly. So you're able to go inside or outside based off your read from what the tackle does in their pass set. So overall, doesn't have elite speed or power, but wins with technique, bend, and savvy. I don't think he's the bendiest, but I think it's serviceable enough for sure. Overall, Latu is the most skilled pass rusher in this class and should have an immediate impact at the next level. That's kind of my issue with ranking Laiatu Latu, is I do think he is the most skilled overall, technically, but does he have a high of upside as a Dallas Turner? And with his injuries, or injury history, because it is there, where does he go in the draft, and how do you factor that into the overall prospect overview? It's tough to say exactly, but love him as a player. He is the most fun to watch for me because he is the most technically skilled. At number 22, throw the horns up. It's the first Texas Longhorn, and I love to see it. People gave me so much crap for 0 Texas players being drafted a couple of years ago, and I'm like, they all went back to school, and Texas was bad for so long. But now it's certainly far from that. As you saw last year, Bijan Robinson was a first-round pick. DeMarvion Overshown drafted. Roshan Johnson obviously drafted. And this year, you're going to see a lot of Longhorns inside this top 50 and even more getting drafted as well. Byron Murphy is the first one. Of course, got to throw my Texas bias out there. Very explosive, nimble, and instinctive defensive tackle. Plays with as good a leverage as any player in this draft. You often see him winning on his knees, which is insane, but he can do it, especially as a run defender, of course. That's the only time you'd really, see somebody do that. But Murphy is capable because he gets so low. Wrestling background, it appears, just based off of his incredible technique. But you can see, blows out of his stance, can roll his hips on contact, creating instant push. He constantly gets underneath blockers and prevails in the leverage battle. That's the name of the game with Byron Murphy, is leverage. Low man wins. He does it all the time. Overall, Murphy might lack ideal size. He's like 6'1"-ish, 310 pounds. But he is a leverage machine who makes an impact on all 3 downs. And yeah, he actually does mention, he also has incredible balance to take on blocks while going to one knee before uncoiling and making plays. It's wild, but it's also at times wildly effective. Love Byron Murphy. Good to see him getting some hype. He is an incredible player who has been so fun to watch at Texas, and I was spoiled this past season with Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat. You have the guy that can really create that pass rush in Byron Murphy, and then T'Vondre Sweat, who got in the way and wasn't movable. I think we'll see him later in this top 50 if memory serves correctly. At number 23, we have our first quarterback in a while since Jaden Daniels inside that top 5 with Oregon's Bo Nix. Transfer from Auburn, very experienced. You really can't say that enough. The FBS record for most starts, 61, is absurd for a college player. He is actually older than Michael Penix. I made a mistake in my last mock draft. He's a couple months older than Penix, but both quite old and experienced, if you want to say that word instead. Average height, thick, sturdy frame, and he's at his best in the quick rhythm passing game. Certainly true. That's quick hitters and a lot of screens in the Oregon offense, but is capable of throwing down the field to a guy like Roy Franklin. They were really, really forming an awesome connection at Oregon over the past couple of seasons, but he does need to improve habits under duress, though, as he occasionally fails to feel backside run-throughs and also falls off some throws when facing interior pressure. He's an urgent athlete and is an effective runner, especially on his own reads. His coaches rave about his leadership and toughness. If you heard Dan Lanning speak for a second, it's the work ethic and leadership of Bo Nix that really separates him, in his opinion. Of course, it is his head coach, but I think overcoming what Bo Nix did at Auburn, which was a terrible offense and terrible individual performance, and then turning himself into a Heisman finalist, you know, the story of Bo Nix is a really impressive one, and a lot of people don't like him. I don't love Bo Nix as a prospect, but I think he's good. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 or top 10 pick, but I think there's a chance he does sneak into the first round because of, you know, the things that you can't necessarily teach, which is that work ethic, that ability to be a leader, ability to be a competitor. So overall, Nick's combination of competitiveness, intelligence, and experience reminds me of Jalen Hurts coming out of college. So Jalen Hurts obviously got drafted higher than expected based on some of his great qualities, and Nix, who's a better quarterback prospect than Jalen Hurts was, is probably going to go even higher, and that's potential first round range. We'll have to see. At number 24 is a corner I was finally able to get to, Ennis Rakestraw. Really, really fun player. Now, rangy, fluid, plays with energy and toughness, but I think his best attribute is that physicality as a press corner. Really, really fun to watch. It's always fun to see the corners who are aggressive and who will let you know that they're dominating you. And Rakestraw is physical as they come. So someone that is deserving of this hype up the board. Awesome against the run. Now, injuries could hold him back a little bit. Now, that could hurt the projection, whether he's a first or second or third round player even. But definitely talented enough to be a first round player. We'll see if his injury history holds him back. That's a very real thing when it comes to the NFL draft, and we worry, why is this guy dropping? You know, why is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah dropping down the board? Why is Trey Smith dropping down the board? Well, sometimes the injuries can really scare teams away, but in those instances, I think it was more like heart and blood flow issues compared to just, you know, like actual like bones or ligaments or things like that. Because Trey Smith was blood clots and JOK was a heart thing. So maybe that doesn't factor a ton into the projection. A guy like Rakestraw goes higher up the board than I expect. Same thing with Leatu Latu or Michael Penix, who we'll get to later. At number 25 is Chop Robinson. Yeah, we've talked about this the entire cycle. Extremely twitched up edge rusher with limited production. Really doesn't have a great pass rush plan at this moment, but is just faster. That's it. The speed rush can be killer at times, but has flashed a nifty two-hand swipe maneuver and a push-pull move. Those are some things we see work pretty well at the next level. The swipe, of course, getting after those hands, elbow, even of offensive tackles, and then the push-pull, getting into their chest and moving them out of the way. And those are, you know, kind of advanced pass rush maneuvers at times, and it's all about timing and hand placement, especially with that swipe move. And Robinson doesn't do that a ton. Really just is speed-based right now. Against the run, he consistently generates knockback versus head-up blockers, but he struggles versus angle blocks and double teams. He gets washed down the line too often. Overall, Robinson isn't a smooth, bendy type of player, but his mix of speed and power provides a lot of disruption. We'll see if that works in the NFL. Right now, he is a project, in my opinion. At number 26, we have Devontae Tez Walker from UNC. Yeah, missed some time in 2023 because the NCAA did not let him play, which was ridiculous. And finally, they let him play, and then he was really, really good. 41 catches for almost 700 yards and 7 touchdowns, averaging 17 yards per catch. Had some issues with drops at the Senior Bowl. It's a little bit concerning, but all in all, you have to look back to what you actually see on the field, and he really didn't drop the ball that much. So how do I factor that stuff in? Well, at the Senior Bowl, at the East-West Shrine game in one-on-ones, you worry more about the receivers who can't create separation, right? You ding them for that. But the receivers who do create separation at an insane rate doesn't really move them up a ton because the DBs are at a significant disadvantage. Same thing for corners. If they play really well, you move them up. But if they play not so well, you can't really ding them too hard versus the tape because the one-on-ones are incredibly difficult. And if your receiver can't create space in that environment, you're in for a tough time in the NFL. But for Tez Walker, I'm more worried about seeing him dominate on the field versus having a couple of concentration drops at the Senior Bowl practices. I think he's going to be a better player. Everyone was freaking out on Twitter in my replies, and I'm like, hey, I'd like this guy to catch the ball more. It's like, oh, you're an idiot for mocking him in the second round, which I don't think I've done. I don't think I've done a 2-round mock draft yet. Maybe I'm wrong. And then I had people saying, I don't see it with him. He shouldn't be a first or second round player. He's really, really good. Just dropped the ball a couple times at the Senior Bowl. I had a tough time, maybe even more than a couple. But overall, I'm not really too concerned about it. It wasn't really a problem on the field at either Kent State or UNC. So I don't know. I'd rather just focus on what you actually see on the film. Overall, Walker's a gifted field stretching target and should be ready to impact his NFL team immediately. I don't want to compare him to Diami Brown because of UNC, but I think they did similar things well, and Tez Walker probably even a cut above as a prospect. At number 27, we have Michigan's J.J. McCarthy, lean, athletic quarterback with a live, loose arm. So this is a really good profile of how I happen to view J.J. McCarthy as well, and why I'm probably a bit higher on him than everybody else seems to be. I'll read the entire thing out loud for you guys. He's very consistent because of his ability to always throw from a firm base with his feet and eyes connected. So when you're going through your progressions, it's ability to move everything at once so you're ready to get rid of the football. McCarthy is advanced mechanically. So he is selectively aggressive as a passer. He has a combination of velocity and accuracy to fit balls into tight windows, but he's also very comfortable taking checkdowns and piling up completions. So, a couple of times a game, you'll see a splash throw. That's kind of pretty much it. Michigan really didn't have him throw the football very often, but I'm telling you, when he did, he was really, really good. Now, did make some mistakes, which are magnified because of how little he actually had to throw the football at times this year, but he has big-time potential. Now, he's also smart with the football as well, as DJ mentions, with taking those checkdowns and being very efficient. He shows a touch to take speed off the ball underneath and provide optimal run after catch ball location. So you're throwing out in front of those receivers so they can catch it in stride and get yards after catch. The only throws that gave him some trouble were the over-the-top outside shots, as he let too many of those leak and end up out of bounds. Don't really want to do that unless you see, the safety being able to make a play on the ball. Then you'd rather throw it away rather than throw a pick. But oftentimes you want to give your guy a shot, and it's not always the case where it's going to be a safety coming over or a corner going to be in a position to make that play. If the receiver has them stacked, put it out in front, let the receiver run underneath that ball. But the only time you really would let it leak to the outside is with a safety potentially in position to make a play. But overall, you want to see your receiver try and make a play on those footballs. So that's something you might need to clean up, but also isn't a very explosive straight line runner. Overall, other quarterbacks in this class have more volume in the passing game, but it's hard to argue with McCarthy's results, probably speaking of the national championship. Also had a great QBR as well, if you value that. I see some similarities to Alex Smith coming out of college. McCarthy, I think, real fast, real big arm. In a different offense that prioritizes throwing the football, I think he's going to be effective. Now, is there some development to be done? Absolutely. But McCarthy is the most over-hated player in this draft, in my opinion. That's just how I view things. At number 28 is Jerzon Johnny Newton from Illinois. He's a slightly undersized defensive tackle with quick and powerful hands. He really is fast. He gets into the backfield in an instant. Overall, Newton lacks ideal lower body flexibility, but he's a very skilled rusher and holds up versus the run. This guy really does live in the backfield. Super fun player to watch. We'll see if he's able to do that at the NFL level. At number 29, another one of my favorites in the draft, it's Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Playmaking corner with size and speed. A lot of guys project him to move back to safety. I think he could be an incredible nickel as well. This guy just doesn't really miss tackles, and I think that's a really translatable trait. I said the same thing about Brian Branch coming out of Alabama. So overall, DJ believes DeJean could stick at corner, but I wouldn't rule out a move to safety, where his strengths as a player would be featured. He reminds me of a bigger Eric Weddle coming out of college, which really is an incredible compliment, as Eric Weddle, not only multiple all-pro safety, but a potential Hall of Famer, one of the best safeties of the 2010s. He was an incredible player. And I think he was he part of that stacked '07 draft class? I think he was. And DeJean probably even a little bit of a better athlete than Eric Weddle was. So DeJean with size and speed, instincts, tackling ability, I think he's going to be a great player. As we get to another corner, it's my guy Nate Wiggins. Tall, long cornerback with outstanding speed. He's effective in press coverage when he gets his hands on receivers, but does hold on for a little bit too long. I think that's a really good note as well. And he's not really a great tackler. Now, to me, if you're going to be a boundary corner, I do value that a little bit less. I want you to be able to cover first and foremost, and that's just going to be a difference in opinion on how you view different players, and it obviously depends on the system as well. Because if you're going to have a boundary cornerback with really good tackling linebackers and safeties, it's going to be a little bit less important for a corner. You still want them to be able to tackle, no question. But I value the guys that can cover a little bit more, and Wiggins, I think, can certainly do that. And big time potential. Now, he mentions that his effort at times can be spotty, with like chasing back, but I've also seen him show outstanding effort. So I don't know, maybe it's just with the games that he studied versus some of the games that I studied. And obviously, DJ is a professional, but doing this a lot longer and at a higher level than me. But I really like Nate Wiggins, and I think he's definitely worthy of being a top first round type of player in this draft. As we get to an offensive tackle in a stacked offensive tackle class, Jordan Morgan from Arizona. Very athletic left tackle with average size. In pass pro, he's quick out of his stance to beat and cover up speed rushers. And then overall, Morgan is just over a year removed from ACL surgery, but he's hopefully can add more strength and power at the next level now that he's healthy. Overall, he has starting tackle ability. So when you get down the board, you're getting to guys that you think they could be starters for you. Not necessarily Pro Bowl caliber players, if you want to use that kind of terminology. Big time potential for Jordan Morgan. Could end up being a starter, which you'd expect of a first round player. That's what you're hoping for. As we get to another guy who's developed a ton of hype, I'll just call him a defensive lineman, Darius Robinson from Mizzou. Big, long, and versatile defensive lineman, lined up all over the Tigers' defensive front. Brett Coleman, I'm actually wearing the bootleg football hoodie they sent me. But Brett Coleman tweeted out about the various pass rush win rates for Darius Robinson based on alignment or technique. So even though he's listed at defensive tackle here, you'd probably think a 3 technique for a guy that is 6'5", 290, 300. Well, Darius Robinson had a higher pass rush win rate as a 5 tech and a really, really good pass rush win rate higher than that. You're talking about 7, maybe even up to wide 9. Did not see Darius Robinson get all the way out there when I watched him, but I've also only seen about a game or two of him. So certainly could have done it, but typically you don't see a guy this big out there in a wide 9. Now, if you can get him on a runway, he's going to be dominant because he just has great size and speed, or maybe not great speed, but great speed for the size. Can play too high at times and get stuck, according to DJ. Against the run, he dominates. He sets a physical edge and can shed blockers to get in on tackles. His evaluation is similar to Eric Armstead's coming out of college. He can do a lot of things well, and teams will have different visions for how to best use his abilities. So yeah, inside-outside flexibility. If you think about Eric Armstead, he's a guy that's also moved all over the defensive line in the NFL. And Darius Robinson, depending on who drafts him, could be doing a lot of different things. But I think you're looking at your traditional 5 technique when you think about Darius Robinson. At number 33, we have Duke's Graham Barton. Starting left tackle for his final 3 seasons at Duke. Before that, started 5 games at center, and DJ actually thinks he's going to be an NFL center. Ideal size for the position and average length, which is why he's projected to move inside. Shorter arms generally don't usually work too well on the edge outside there against these defensive ends with freakishly long arms. But overall, he's a technician in the run game. Always hits his landmarks with his hands on down blocks before sinking and driving with his lower half. This is a leverage game after all, and of course that really works well in the interior, especially as a run blocker. He's excellent on combo blocks, and he's under control as a puller. Overall, I see Barton as an athletic center with the ability to survive a tackle if needed. So these guys that are versatile and can do it all, they're very valuable. So if you can have someone that is a center that can play guard, be a tackle in a pinch, that's extremely valuable. Not only as like a starter on the O-line, but being that 6th offensive lineman. So Obviously, you'd like him to develop into a starter, but just the ability to kind of be a swing player at any number of different positions on the O-line, incredibly valuable. At number 34, hook 'em, Adonai Mitchell. From Texas, transferred from Georgia. Outstanding size, toughness, and polish for the position. He is deceptively fast because of his long stride. Now, I'll just give you my review of Adonai Mitchell. He is silky smooth. I mean, glides around the field. You just don't typically see somebody of that size move the way he does. Now, DJ's issue with Adonai Mitchell is kind of what my issue has been, that he gets lazy if he's not actually involved in the progression and thinks the ball is going elsewhere. I'd like to see him, really work to be a threat, whether he's getting the football or not, put more pressure on the defense. Now, Adonai, I think, needs to be a little bit more polished as a route runner. DJ mentions his polish. I think he could be a little bit quicker in and out of breaks, but he's a really big guy, so it's certainly good enough and has excellent jump ball ability. I love Adonai Mitchell as a prospect. I wish he got the football even more at Texas in 2023. Should have happened a lot more than it did, but this is just a rare mover for his size, and as he develops as a route runner, I think you've got a potentially special type of player. Ideal X receiver. Yeah, this guy can do it all. Jump ball threat that can also really win down the field and get open underneath. Would like to see a little bit more consistency from him. At number 35, we have Jackson Powers Johnson. He's going to continue to skyrocket up the board. Had an incredible week down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl and does have experience at all three interior offensive line spots and has even spent time at defensive tackle. I didn't realize that. He was outstanding at the center position in 2023, and that's the projection in the NFL. He's quick working up to the second level and takes good angles. Overall, there aren't many holes in his game. I love his bulldog play style. So Jackson Powers Johnson is probably going to be the first interior offensive lineman off the board if you don't count a guy like Graham Barton or Troy Fautanu. And even so, JPJ has even top 20 in the draft potential. I look at a team maybe like the Seahawks at the very earliest, typically do not see centers drafted that high. A lot of them go at like 18 to into the 20s. I think that's where the run could really start. You look at a team like Miami or Dallas, even if he gets to the 49ers at the end of the first round, more and more, especially after dominating down at the Senior Bowl, I think Jackson Powers Johnson has played his way into the first round. I think he's going to end up being a first-round player. It was just a matter of seeing which of these interior offensive linemen would end up standing out in 2023. Jackson Powers Johnson was one of them. Zach Frazier, we'll get to in a second, was the other. Number 36 is Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry. I believe his first name is Quincy. Unique one. Anyway, McKinstry is a smooth, athletic corner with average play speed. He's very patient, really good in zone coverage. It's kind of my takeaway, but has the length to be a good press player. He carries his hands low and prefers to play under control rather than attack. He doesn't have any tightness when opening up. There are some corners with his deep speed when he's challenged vertical. There's some concerns, when he's challenged vertically. From off coverage, everything he does is smooth, but he lacks twitch and urgency. Adonai Mitchell was someone that really dominated Kool-Aid McKinstry at times when I watched the Alabama game. Does find to play the ball well both in front of him and down the field. He isn't ultra aggressive, and this is what you really talk about with Kool-Aid, is he's just patient. He's going to let the play come to him versus really going out and making something happen. But overall, reliable tackler in space. He's a lot of redeeming qualities, but his top speed is a question mark. If he posts a good time in the 40-yard dash, it could really boost his stock. This is someone you do want to see play a little bit faster. And he has experience returning for Alabama. The athleticism really should be there. We'll see what his 40 looks like, but I typically don't think a 40 really ever boosts anyone's stock all that much. But when you're already, really talented, maybe it could separate you a bit from some of the other corners. I can see that happening, I guess. At number 37, you have West Virginia's Zach Frazier. Physical center with average size and length. This is somebody that Dane Brugler has been quite high on for so long. Put Zach Frazier at least on my radar. We'll probably talk about Dane Brugler's top 50 when he releases an updated one here, which I would expect pretty soon. Anyway, Frazier is quick out of his stance, plays with a wide, firm base, and immediately anchors. Overall, Frazier was a 4-time state wrestling champion in high school. That they love that on the offensive line because it's a leverage game. And if you learn the proper technique, these guys with wrestling backgrounds in the trenches, it plays and it does translate. Frazier was a 4-time state wrestling champion in high school, and he carries that tenacity over to the football field. He will be a day one starter and tempo setter for the team that drafts him. And I think that's certainly very fair. When you watch Zach Frazier, he looks like a long-time starting NFL center, and that's just kind of the same thing I saw with John Michael Schmitz 2 years ago now. Of course, up and down rookie season for the Giants, but that can happen on the O-line. Zach Frazier looks like a starting center to me. At number 38, we have Keon Coleman from FSU. Apparently dealt with a lower body injury at the end of the year for FSU, but this is someone that I really, really like. Big jump ball ability. Now, I have kind of fallen for the big jump ball receivers in the past when you should prefer guys that separate, and that's kind of the way I've transitioned in my evaluations over the past few years. I really love the guys that just get open. That translates over the guy that maybe they're a great jump ball receiver in college, but when you get to these guys that play the ball better at the next level in the secondary, a little bit tougher to be as dominant, right? But if you can separate, you can pretty much separate. If you can separate against some of these top corners in college, those are typically the top corners in the NFL. And if you end up developing at the same rate, you're probably still going to be able to get open at the same rate. Do you get what I'm saying? Hopefully you do. Coleman doesn't separate quite so well, but is a bigger bodied receiver and has great athleticism. You saw him return punts for Florida State, like I always say. I think that speaks to his overall athletic profile. It's incredible. And after the catch, he's great. And that's why he was returning punts, because he's able to make guys miss. So I'm hoping that he ends up playing a bit faster. I think he's going to actually run pretty well for his size. And I hope that he ends up being a little bit better of a route runner. But that size, it could be tough. But yeah, red zone threat for sure, day one right away. This guy, different. Number 39 is Troy Franklin, who is a home run hitter. Tall, lanky, with big-time speed. That might even be an understatement. Could be the fastest player at his position in the entire draft. He really runs well. I'm thinking he's going to be 4.3 for sure. It's my expectation. We'll see what ends up happening. But overall, he needs to be more consistent with his hands, but he's shown the ability to provide plenty of explosive plays for his offense. He's a burner. That's what you can say about Troy Franklin. And at number 40, you have Michael Penix Jr. I'll tell you, this would be a fun combo if Franklin and Penix end up on the same team. Both Pac guys, or now Big Ten guys. But Michael Penix, man, this is someone who people think I absolutely hate. I don't hate him. I've said for a while I don't think he's going to be drafted all that high because of a number of different things, including durability. But he really has a tremendous arm, and when he drives the football, it's accurate. When he puts touch underneath it, it can be a little bit more inconsistent. Overall, he's been through a litany of injuries during his career, but he managed to overcome them and led Washington to the national title game. Durability is a legitimate concern, but I believe his combination of vision, accuracy, and arm strength, he believes in. So I think that's a fair review. But we'll see. He does have issues getting throws up and down the middle of the field. He doesn't really do that. It doesn't really throw the ball over the middle field ever. It's extremely bizarre. And against Texas, he did have the ability to, get out and improvise, which he didn't really show against a lot of other teams. So this is kind of like, it reminds me of the CJ Stroud evaluation in a way, where I'm like, I don't know if CJ Stroud can really improvise the way an NFL QB can. And then he had the game against Georgia in the college football playoff, and I go, okay, we've seen it now. Can he do that every game, or was this a one-time thing? And that's kind of the question you wonder about. And that Georgia game against the best defense in the country is what made me push CJ Stroud up my board from where I thought about him previously. And we've seen it at the NFL level now. He's been tremendous. At number 41, another Longhorn, Ja'Tavion Sanders. Very smooth, fluid athlete with exceptional play speed. When you talk about Ja'Tavion Sanders, it is size, speed, hands. Needs to develop as a blocker. I'd like his overall route running to be a bit better, but he is a freak athlete with truly incredible hands. Does not drop the football. DJ says after the catch, he has stop-start quickness, and he can pull away when he gets the ball on the run. It's another guy in this class that can eliminate pursuit angles at the tight end position. It's a rarity. These guys get drafted high. Last year had so many incredible tight ends, and We saw so many of them get pushed up the board. If you needed a tight end, you probably got one last year. I think that's part of why Jatavion Sanders is projected a little bit lower in this draft, but I think he's got first round type of talent. He's just got to put it all together. He is more than capable as a blocker, effectively shielding and walling off opponents. Overall, Sanders isn't a nuanced route runner, but his combination of speed, athleticism, and hands will translate very well to the next level. Yeah, I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker right away. Needs to improve as a route runner, needs to improve as a blocker, but he's a willing blocker, which is the first big step. At number 42, you have Georgia's Kamari Lassiter. Man, he had a great season for the Bulldogs in 2023. Lean, athletic corner with inside-outside positional flexibility. In press man, he isn't very physical, but he is patient and avoids putting himself in a bad position. Similar to Kool-Aid McKinstry in that way. Fluid athlete and rarely gets out of phase at any level of the route, and that's something that translates. Staying in phase, if you don't know what that means, basically being attached to the hip of the receiver. Being in a position to cross over, make a play on the ball, not getting beat in essence. He stays square and wraps up cleanly as a tackler. Overall, Lassiter has lots of value because of his ability to line up in multiple spots and compete against the pass and the run. At number 43, we have another Longhorn. Love to see it. It's Xavier Worthy, and my comp of Hollywood Brown is aging well. Worthy has average height and a very lean frame. Very skinny. Very skinny. He's about as skinny as I am, which is wild of an NFL player. He's extremely twitchy and can take the top off the defense. He plays inside and outside, and he was used in a variety of different ways at Texas. Xavier Worthy, the best return man in this draft. No question about it. His ability to make guys miss and turn on the jets is like no one else. He's also going to run really fast in that same kind of like Troy Franklin type of range. Worthy can move. He's going to provide instant value as a return man. That's valuable, but also as a run after catch and deep speed guy, Worthy should go into an NFL offense and be a contributor sooner rather than later. He is an awesome player. His play strength and contested catch ability is up in the air, but his deep ball tracking and hands really improved in 2023. Part of that was playing with a broken hand in 2022. But the competitiveness, playing through that injury as a receiver, certainly there. Love Xavier Worthy. Big part of this Texas turnaround in the past couple of years. At number 44 is another awesome player. It's Ladd McConkey from Georgia. Great speed, great ability as a route runner, and solid hands. He's not just a slot guy. This is someone who can win down the field. People think Ladd McConkey, they compare him to any slow, whatever, like, first guy in, last guy out, whatever you want to say about these white receivers, right? McConkey's a better athlete than the typical white receiver, and he's got the route running ability and the hands. I think he's going to end up being a big player. Overall, McConkey isn't quite as physical as former Seahawks receiver Doug Baldwin, but I see a lot of similarities in their route running and instincts. I can see McConkey having a similar career. Well, that is very high praise for a former really awesome player in Doug Baldwin. At number 45, we get our second linebacker off the board. It's Junior Colson from Michigan. Big physical linebacker with excellent instincts. Against the pass, he has a knack for diagnosing routes and positioning himself properly. That's great in zone coverage. He has enough speed and agility to mirror tight ends underneath and down the seam. That's awesome man coverage, and he closes the flat in a hurry and takes excellent angles. He also shows timing and burst as a blitzer. All that said, he is at his best against the run. He is quick to key and fill, if you don't know what that means. A linebacker has keys to read that basically tells him whether it's a run or a pass, and filling is basically how you fit the run, which lane you run into, and where you're able to either take on blockers or make tackles. Physical, chest-up tackler. He would have posted more impressive numbers this past season if Michigan had played in more close games. Not playing in close games, teams probably aren't running the ball against you. The Wolverines rolled through a lot of players on that side of the ball. Of course, backups will come in too. Overall, Colson's speed, physicality combination will fit in any defense. If you read this review, it sounds like a top 10 player in the draft. Really? And we'll have to see if that ends up being the case. We'll see if Colson gets drafted even higher than 45, which is where DJ ranks him on his big board. And again, if you read this, it really sounds like the best linebacker in this draft. Big physical that can play man and zone coverage, that is even better against the run, with great size and ability to get to the flat. Sideline to sideline range with coverage ability and ability to take on blockers. It sounds pretty amazing for Junior Colson. And I've definitely liked Michigan linebackers in the past. Colson should be a fun study. I have not really got to him yet. At number 46, we have Chris Braswell from Alabama. Super freak athlete off the edge. The combination with Braswell's breakout and Dallas Turner's dominance that we already knew about, man, that was a fun combo to watch this past season. Really awesome breakout season for Chris Braswell. Overall, he still has room for development, but has 3-down potential. Great run defender with ability to showcase a bunch of different moves. Jump, chop, rip is a combination where you set up, jump, chop, and then rip through. So someone that is athletic, that's going to be their go-to, is ripping through to the quarterback. And flattening is just, it's all about bending and getting to the quarterback. So this is someone with potential. Will they realize that potential at the next level? We'll see. Number 47 is Peyton Wilson from NC State. Height, weight, speed linebacker. He's a freak athlete. So fun to watch. You talk about what you think of. If you could build a dream linebacker, it pretty much is Peyton Wilson, I swear. I know he's at 47. He's a first-round talent with big-time injury history, but is big, fast, strong, good coverage ability, is a playmaker at linebacker. He is awesome. Also, learned today, brother of a Brewers pitcher, Bryce Wilson. Athletic family, and Peyton Wilson is certainly no exception. He's going to run really well. People are going to freak out, and I'm excited for it. At number 48, last Texas player in the top 50, that's T'Vondre Sweat. Yeah, he's 6'4", 363 pounds. I love T'Vondre Sweat, man. Was a monster in the middle. 8 blocks for the Texas defense. Awesome combo with Byron Murphy. He's surprisingly quick, but it's because he's 363. He's not especially quick, but he's surprisingly quick. But he is a monster with good hand placement, surprisingly good leverage. Not going to be an amazing pass rusher probably in the NFL, but will be an awesome run defender right away. Overall, Sweat has present value as a run defender and some upside as a pass rusher. Yeah, really fun to watch at Texas. Love T'Vondre Sweat. T-Sweat's a beast. At number 49 is Marshawn Kneeland. Player I've not got to yet either, but is a rugged, powerful edge defender according to DJ. Against the pass, the Western Michigan edge relies almost solely on his ability to generate force and power through blocks. Does not have an elite get-off, but he's quick to shoot his hands inside and has a lower body strength to walk offensive tackles right back into the quarterback. So, sounds like a big power profile with tenacity, because overall Kneeland isn't a special athlete, but he reminds me of a Baltimore Ravens type player. Tough, physical, and plays with max effort. Effort isn't the sexiest thing for a pass rusher, but it wins over time, because you might not be able to win instantly, but you're going to create so many opportunities that eventually you're going to get home. And Marshawn Kneeland apparently is the max effort type of pass rusher with powerful hands and ability against the run. And then at number 50 is Malachi Corley. It's everyone's budget Deebo Samuel. He's a compact physical slot receiver with outstanding run after catch ability. Yeah, he's been nicknamed the Yak King. He is a monster after the catch, as I've been saying. I don't know that he's Deebo Samuel, but I think a team's going to use him that same way. He is incredible after the catch with really solid speed. And yeah, so in 2022, he caught so many screens. His average depth of target in 2023 is 6.1 yards. I think it was even lower than that for his career. I think it was 5.7 for his career yards, or the average depth of target was 5.7 yards. So he's catching mostly screens, or historically a lot of them, or slants, shallow crossers. But he's athletic enough where if he needs to run a more complex route tree, it's a possibility, and DJ backs it up. Don't see any physical limitations or stiffness that would preclude him from developing a more diverse route repertoire. He has some drops on tape, but he can offset a few of those with special catches outside his frame. He's only about 5'10", but plays way bigger. After the catch, he runs through tackles, makes defenders miss, and has legit top-end speed, which I would certainly agree with. Overall, Corley can have an immediate role as a starting slot receiver next fall. Get him the football, watch him go to work. That's DJ's top 50. I'm excited for the update. Don't know if we'll be going over it, maybe in a month or so down the line. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.